He sang for presidents and dined with mob bosses. The FBI followed him for decades. His connections to the Mafia were an open secret, yet he became America's most beloved voice. This is how Frank Sinatra walked the dangerous line between glamour and the underworld, and somehow became untouchable. Frank Sinatra wasn't just a singer. He was a man caught between two worlds. On one side, Hollywood glamour, White House dinners, sold-out Vegas shows. On the other side, mobsters, casino deals, FBI surveillance files thousands of pages long. How did a skinny kid from Hoboken become the man who could call both JFK and Sam Giancana his friends? What really happened the night JFK was supposed to stay at Sinatra's Palm Springs compound? And why did the president suddenly cancel? Who were the mob bosses that helped Sinatra's career? And what did they want in return? Why did the FBI suspect him of being a courier for organized crime? And how did he survive it all without going to prison or ending up dead? In this story, you'll learn Sinatra's tough childhood in Hoboken and his mother's iron control. His first meeting with Lucky Luciano and that famous Mafia meeting in Havana in 1947. Why was Frank carrying $2 million cash? How he escaped the Tommy Dorsey contract and the gun threat rumors. What Sam Giancana did for Frank, and the suspicious role he played in the 1960 election. The CAL-NEVA Lodge scandal and the FBI's 1,300-page file. How JFK abandoned him and Frank's broken heart. And of course, the music. My Way, New York, New York, Strangers in the Night. Not just songs, but anthems of a lifestyle. The golden years at Capitol Records. The toxic love affair with Ava Gardner and its nearly fatal consequences. The Rat Pack craziness in Vegas with Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. Earning the title Chairman of the Board and Frank's never-bending spirit. This isn't just a musician's story. This is the story of America's dark side from the 1940s to the 1990s. The golden age of the Mafia, the rise of Las Vegas, JFK assassination theories, the Cold War, and how one man danced through it all, with power brokers, criminals, presidents. How did Frank Sinatra have a 60-year career and never get arrested? Why did the Mafia protect him? Why couldn't the FBI ever nail him? And why did My Way become more than just a song? Are you ready? Because this story goes into dangerous territory. You'll see how real power works. And sometimes you'll learn how the biggest stars walk in the darkest shadows. Here's the complete story of Frank Sinatra. Light and darkness, music and mafia, love and danger. Before we continue with Frank Sinatra's incredible journey, we'd love to connect with our amazing Rise Stories community. Please take a moment to let us know in the comments, which city or country are you watching from? What's your age group? We love hearing from viewers of all ages. If you were in Frank Sinatra's position, what would you have done? Don't forget to subscribe to Rise Stories and hit that notification bell so you never miss our heartwarming stories. Now, let's continue with Frank Sinatra's incredible journey. December 12th, 1915, Hoboken, New Jersey. In a small tenement apartment, Natalie Dolly Sinatra was giving birth. The baby was too big, Dolly too small. The doctor used forceps. The metal tool tore the baby's face. Ear ripped, permanent scars on neck and cheek. The baby wasn't moving. Doctor thought he was dead. But grandmother plunged him in cold water. Shock. The baby cried. Francis Albert Sinatra was alive. Those scars, those forceps marks, stayed for life. Facial asymmetry, hearing loss in the ear. But nobody knew that Broken Baby would become the voice. Hoboken in 1915 was a poor Italian immigrant neighborhood. Narrow streets, violence, poverty. His father, Marty Sinatra, former boxer, now firefighter, was quiet and violent. When he drank, he hit. Frank was scared. His mother, Dolly, was the opposite. Loud, powerful, domineering. She was politically connected, performed illegal abortions, cursed like a man. And she wanted to control Frank, everything. What he wore, who he talked to, what he did. Frank was an only child. Dolly both loved him excessively and crushed him. Little Frank was very thin. They called him Scarecrow, Slacksy for his big ears, questions about the scars on his face. He was ashamed, but Dolly dressed him like a prince, the best clothes. This made him a target. Other kids beat him. Frank was small, but his mouth was big. He compensated with attitude. Never backed down. This pattern would last a lifetime. Never bending. 1933. 17-year-old Frank watched a Bing Crosby concert. Bing took the stage, that smooth voice. Women went crazy, screaming, fainting. Frank froze. He saw a vision. This is it. Not just singing, power, control, making women crazy. He ran home. "Mom, I'm going to be a singer." Dolly laughed. "You? You're not good." But Frank didn't listen. For the first time, he knew for certain. He got a ukulele, found a microphone, practiced. His voice wasn't powerful like Bing's, softer, more intimate. But with the microphone, maybe he could do something different. He sang for free in local bars. In 1935, he won a competition, Hoboken 4. Short tour was a disaster. Group disbanded. Frank was 20, still nowhere. But he'd learned something. He loved the spotlight. And he didn't like sharing it. In 1939, he married Nancy Barbato, quiet, supportive, good Italian girl. In 1940, their daughter Nancy Jr. was born. Frank was happy but frustrated. 24 years old, still nowhere. Then he joined Harry James Orchestra. 6 months later, a bigger offer came. Tommy Dorsey Orchestra. Frank accepted. Tommy Dorsey was a genius, but a despot. Frank learned breath control from him. Long phrases, minimal breathing. This became Frank's signature style. Intimate, whispering quality. 1940 to 1942, Frank became a star. I'll Never Smile Again was a hit. BOBBY-SOXER girls were obsessed. But there was a problem. The contract. Tommy's contract was brutal, 53% of Frank's income for life. In 1942, Frank wanted to leave. Tommy refused. A contract is a contract. Frank was desperate. Lawyers said unbreakable. And then something mysterious happened. November 1942. Tommy suddenly freed Frank. Just $75,000. Lifetime 53% gone. What happened? Rumor. A man went to Tommy's dressing room. Gun to head. Sign or? Tommy signed. No proof. But the Godfather movie has the same scene. Johnny Fontaine, based on Sinatra. Coincidence? Frank never explained. But his mob connections started right then. Frank's mob connection came from Hoboken. Dolly performed illegal abortions with the Mafia's permission. The Mafia controlled everything in that neighborhood. Frank saw them as a child, powerful, respected, intimidating. In the 1940s, someone noticed him. Lucky Luciano, the founder of modern organized crime. imprisoned in 1936, deportation in 1946 to Italy. From there to Cuba, Havana. February 1947, big Mafia conference in Havana, Hotel Nacional. All the big bosses, Meyer Lansky, Vito Genovese, Frank Costello, Santo Trafficante, and Frank Sinatra was there. Why? Official story, vacation, concerts. Truth, Frank carried a briefcase, $2 million cash, courier duty. For Luciano, kickbacks, payments, deals. Frank was a trusted courier. Because he was famous, nobody would suspect a celebrity. In Havana, Frank spent a lot of time with Luciano. Meals, drinks, photos were taken, Frank and Lucky. Those photos ended up with the FBI. The FBI had been watching Frank for years. The Havana trip was a red flag. What is Sinatra doing with the Mafia? Investigation opened. They couldn't find proof. Frank denied everything. I know Luciano, but no business. But the truth? Frank was now inside. The Mafia protected him. And Frank served. For life. December 30th, 1942. Paramount Theater, New York. Frank's first solo show. 3,600 seats sold out. 10,000 girls fighting outside. Frank took the stage. Thin, bow tie, nervous. 1 second of silence. Then, explosion. Screaming. Fainting. 50-plus girls taken away by ambulance. When the show ended, nobody left. They waited until morning. The BOBBY-SOXER craze began. Young girls obsessed with Frank. Outside his house, trying to steal his garbage. World War II, men at war. Girls lonely. Frank, soft voice, vulnerability. Romantic. Exactly what they needed. Frank became a phenomenon, but critics didn't take him seriously. Teenage craze will be forgotten in a year. Hollywood came. RKO Pictures contract. First film, Higher and Higher. Bomb. Sinatra can't act. But the girls didn't care. 1944 to 45, several more musicals. All the same. Weak story. Frank sings. Girls scream. 1945, MGM big contract. But MGM exploited Frank. Bad films, bad roles. Frank was frustrated, and his personal life became chaos. Nancy at home with 3 kids. Frank in a different world. Parties, actresses, alcohol, freedom. In 1946, caught with an actress. Then another. Nancy swallowed it. He has a family. He'll come back. But Frank wasn't coming back. November 1949. Hollywood party. Frank, married with 3 kids, saw her. Ava Gardner. The most beautiful woman in the world. Green eyes, black hair. In that moment, everything changed. Ava wasn't just beautiful. She was dangerous. Smart. Independent. Uncontrollable. 2 failed marriages. Mickey Rooney, Artie Shaw. Frank became obsessed, instantly. After the first night, he told Nancy, "I'm leaving. I'm going to be with Ava." Nancy was shocked. 3 kids. 10 years of marriage. For an actress? Frank didn't answer. He left. The media exploded. Sinatra leaves wife for Ava. Frank's image destroyed. Good family man. Gone. Catholic Church condemned him. Radio ban. Fans angry. Frank didn't care. He sacrificed everything for Ava. 1950, Nancy divorced. Brutal, public, expensive. 1951, Frank and Ava married. Hollywood's most beautiful couple. But from the honeymoon on, problems. Their fights were legendary. Screaming, throwing things, violence, then passion, then more fighting. Toxic cycle. Ava was successful. Mogambo, barefoot Contessa. Frank was falling. Fast. 1952. Frank seemed finished. Voice damaged from emotional stress. Columbia dropped him. Agency dropped him. TV show canceled. IRS debt. Selling his possessions. And Ava left him. Frank collapsed. 1953. Overdose. Suicide attempt. Survived. A few months later, slit his wrists. Survived again, but that pain, the Ava agony, created something. In the Wee Small Hours album, Pure Heartbreak, he sang like a man dying of love, because he was. 1953. Frank was 37, career dead, voice ruined, no contract, nobody hiring, broke, depressed, suicidal. Then he heard about a film, From Here to Eternity. A role, Maggio, scrappy soldier, perfect. But the studio didn't want Sinatra. Box office poison. Frank begged, literally begged, offered to do it for $8,000. When he used to make millions, he got the role. The performance was raw, real, vulnerable. He poured all his pain, Ava, career, everything, into the character. Magic. The film came out in 1953. Critics were shocked. Sinatra can act. He won the Oscar, Best Supporting Actor. Suddenly, Sinatra was back. Bigger than ever. Come back in music too. Capitol Records gave him a chance. With producer Nelson Riddle, they created Magic. Songs for young lovers. Swing Easy. Then, In the Wee Small Hours. Masterpiece. Frank's voice had matured. No longer a BOBBY-SOXER idol. An artist. He knew pain. He knew loss. You could hear it in every note. 1954 to 1956. Golden years. Songs for swingin' lovers. Close to You. A Swingin' Affair. Frank wasn't just a singer. He was the voice. And the power returned. This time he controlled it. Started his own label. Reprise Records. His own terms. Chairman of the board. The greatest comeback in entertainment history. From death to resurrection. And now more powerful than ever. But that power came with dark connections. In the late 1950s, Frank became very close to one man, Sam Giancana. Sam was the boss of the Chicago outfit, one of America's most powerful mafia families. Murder, extortion, gambling. He controlled it all. And he was Frank Sinatra's close friend. How? Las Vegas. In the 1950s, Vegas was the mafia's city. Every major casino was mob-owned. Sands, Riviera, Desert Inn. Frank regularly performed in Vegas, especially at the Sands. The Sands was partially owned by the Chicago outfit. Frank was essentially working for the mafia. But it wasn't just work. Frank and Sam were friends. Real friends. Meals together, drinks, women. Sam frequently came to Frank's CAL-NEVA Lodge, Frank's hotel in Lake Tahoe. CAL-NEVA was important to Frank. He had an ownership stake. But there was a problem. Nevada Gaming Commission rule: those associated with the mafia couldn't have casino ownership. Frank broke the rule. He invited Sam to CAL-NEVA multiple times. Nevada found out. But before we get there, a more important story. The 1960 election. 1960. JFK was running for president. Frank played a major role, a dark role. Frank loved the Kennedy family. Joe Kennedy, JFK's father, was an old friend. Frank wanted to support JFK passionately. He raised money for the campaign, organized fundraisers, made High Hopes JFK's campaign song, sang at rallies, events. But he did something else, darker. In Chicago, JFK won by a narrow margin. That win was critical for the Electoral College. But how did he win? Rumor: Sam Giancana rigged the election. Vote rigging, ballot stuffing, intimidation. Chicago outfit machinery worked for JFK, and Frank was the intermediary. He convinced Sam to help. No hard evidence, but circumstantial evidence is strong. Frank knew Sam intimately. Chicago unexpectedly swung to JFK. Sam later complained, "We helped the Kennedys, got no gratitude." JFK won. Became president. Frank was proud. "My friend is president." 1961. Inauguration. Frank organized the entertainment. Big gala, Hollywood stars. Frank was center stage. And he made plans. JFK would stay at Frank's Palm Springs compound. Frank had a helipad built, renovations done, everything perfect. But then, disaster. March 1962. JFK was planning to visit Palm Springs. He was supposed to stay at Frank's house. Frank was excited. Months of preparation. But a few days before, a phone call. Bobby Kennedy, JFK's brother, Attorney General. The message was clear. The president can't stay at Sinatra's house. FBI surveillance. Sinatra's mob connections are too risky. Bobby was aggressively fighting the Mafia. Organized crime crackdown. Sam Giancana was being investigated. And Bobby knew. Frank was Sam's close friend. JFK canceled. Last minute. Without telling Frank, he stayed at Bing Crosby's house instead. Frank was devastated, humiliated, furious. He literally destroyed the helipad with a sledgehammer, screaming, crying, raging. And then he cut all ties with the Kennedys. Photos destroyed. Friendship over. Even changed his political affiliation from Democrat to Republican. But something deeper happened. Sam felt betrayed by the Kennedys. We helped them in the election. Now, they're investigating us? Sam was angry at Frank. Your fault. You brought the Kennedys into our lives. Frank was caught between two sides, Washington and the underworld. Both sides blamed him. It would get worse. August 1963. An incident at CAL-NEVA. Sam Giancana was there as Frank's guest. Nevada Gaming Commission found out. Frank was called in. Was Giancana there? Frank denied. No. But there were witnesses, photos, evidence. Nevada gave an ultimatum. Surrender your gaming license or formal hearings, which will be public, FBI involved, everything exposed. Frank had no choice. He surrendered the license, sold his CAL-NEVA ownership interest. This was a huge blow, not just financially, reputationally. The message was clear. Frank Sinatra was too close to mobsters. The FBI file was growing. 1,300 plus pages. Every meeting, phone call, connection, documented. But Frank was never charged, never arrested. Why? Because the Mafia protected him, and because Frank was useful. Entertainment industry influence, political connections, money. Frank was an asset, untouchable. But there were some suspicions. JFK assassination connections. November 22, 1963. Dallas. JFK was assassinated. Lee Harvey Oswald arrested. But conspiracy theories immediately began. Was the Mafia involved? Sam Giancana publicly hated the Kennedys. "They betrayed us," he said. And Santo Trafficante, Carlos Marcello, other powerful mob bosses, were also suffering from Bobby Kennedy's crackdown. Some theorists suggested the Mafia had JFK killed for revenge. They helped in the election, felt betrayed. And Frank? Some wondered, did he play an intermediary role? No proof. None. But Frank was Sam's close friend. Sam was allegedly involved in theories, so Frank's connection was investigated. The House Select Committee on Assassinations investigated in the 1970s. Frank testified, denied everything. Sam was just a friend. No business. I know nothing about the assassination. The committee couldn't prove anything. But suspicion remained forever. Frank was never completely cleared. That shadow, mob connections, followed him for life. But despite the negativity, Frank was the entertainment king in the 1960s, especially in Vegas. The Rat Pack: Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis, Jr., Peter Lawford, Joey Bishop. They performed in Vegas at the Sands Hotel. The shows were legendary. Drinking, smoking, joking, singing, improvisation, chaos, fun. The audience loved it. Always sold out. Rat Pack camaraderie was real. Frank was the leader, chairman. Dean was the relaxed joker. Sammy incredibly talented. Peter was the Hollywood connection, JFK's brother-in-law. Joey was the comedian. But Frank always maintained control. His terms, his rules, never compromised. In the 1960s, Vegas was Frank's playground. Performing at the Sands, gambling at the casino, parties 24/7, women everywhere, endless alcohol, and mobsters always there. Sam occasionally, other bosses. Frank mingled with them naturally. It was his world, but the FBI was still watching. Every move documented. 1968. Frank heard Claude François' song Comme d'habitude in French. He liked the melody, had Paul Anka write English lyrics. My Way was born. At first, Frank didn't like it. Too self-indulgent, he said. But Paul insisted. This is your story. Sing it. Frank recorded it. Released in 1969. Initial moderate success. But over time, it became iconic. I did it my way. These weren't just lyrics. It was Frank's life philosophy. He never bent, never compromised, always his own terms. His temper was legendary. He punched photographers, threatened reporters, got banned from casinos, walked off sets, ended friendships over perceived slights. But the same refusal to bend made him great. He refused to sing songs he didn't believe in, refused arrangements that didn't fit his vision, never compromised artistic integrity. The paradox: his greatest strength was his greatest flaw. The refusal to bend made him legendary and nearly destroyed him multiple times. My Way wasn't just a song, it was a manifesto. Millions identified with it, played at funerals, at celebrations, became timeless. In the mid-1960s, Frank got involved with another woman, Mia Farrow. Mia was young, very young, 19 years old. Frank was 50, 30-year age difference, but Frank was obsessed. Mia was different from Ava, waif-like, innocent, intellectual, sympathetic to the hippie movement. Complete opposite of Frank, old school, conservative, traditional. They married in 1966, in Vegas. The media was shocked. 50-year-old marries teenager. But the marriage was doomed from the start. Too different. Mia wanted to make films. Frank wanted her at home. He wanted control. Rosemary's Baby, filmed, with Mia starring. Frank was furious. "You have no time for me," he said. Gave her an ultimatum. The film or me? Mia chose the film. In 1968, Frank sent divorce papers to the film set. Public, cruel, humiliating. The marriage lasted 2 years. Disaster. Frank didn't marry again for a long time. There were relationships, but no marriage. 1971. Frank announced retirement. "I'm done. I'm 55. I'm tired." Farewell concert, LA. Emotional. Sang My Way. Tears. Standing ovation. But retirement lasted 2 years. In 1973, he announced his return. "I Was Bored." Album released. Old Blue Eyes is back. Successful. The truth? Frank couldn't retire. Music was his identity. The stage was his home. Without it, he felt lost. The 1970s were consistent. Albums, tours, TV specials. He wasn't a chart topper anymore, but he was an icon, a legend. And mob connections? Still there, but less public. Sam Giancana was murdered in 1975, in his own home. Mysterious. Rumor. CIA involved, mob involved. Sam knew too much. Frank's reaction? Publicly nothing. Privately, reportedly shaken. He never got that close to a mobster again. In the 1980s, Frank became a prominent Republican. Ronald Reagan was a close friend. Reagan elected president in 1980. Frank organized the inauguration gala, just like for JFK, but this time different. Reagan valued Frank. No betrayal. Frank and Nancy Reagan were close. White House dinners, state dinners. Frank performed multiple times. The shift from Kennedys to Republicans was complete. Frank was now an establishment favorite, but still controversial because of mob connections. In 1985, Reagan wanted to give Frank the Presidential Medal of Freedom. There was opposition. Mob ties. But Reagan insisted. Frank received the medal. Proud moment. In 1976, Frank married Barbara Marx, his longest marriage, until his death. Barbara was stable, loyal, supportive. Good for Frank. The 1980s and 90s, he continued touring. Not regular, but occasional. His voice was no longer perfect. He was aging. But the audience didn't care. They came to see a legend. In the 1990s, health issues began. Heart problems, memory loss, early dementia signs. Sometimes he forgot the stage, mixed up lyrics. But he didn't stop singing. He couldn't. His last concert was in 1995, Palm Springs, weak, tired. But when he came to the microphone, that magic was still there. Glimpses of greatness. May 14th, 1998. Los Angeles, Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. Frank Sinatra had a heart attack. Rushed to the hospital. Family called, Barbara, his children Nancy Jr., Frank Jr., Tina. Hours passed. Doctors tried, but Frank was 82 years old. His body was tired. 10:50 p.m. Frank Sinatra took his last breath. The voice fell silent. The announcement was made. The world was shocked. When the news spread, tributes exploded. Presidents, actors, musicians, normal people. President Clinton. Frank Sinatra's voice will echo forever. He was the voice. Tony Bennett, the greatest singer of the 20th century. Bono. Frank taught us how to live, with style, with defiance, with heart. The Las Vegas Strip lights dimmed. Tribute. Empire State Building lit blue for Sinatra's eyes. Radio stations did marathons. 24 hours only Sinatra. Funeral in Beverly Hills, Good Shepherd Catholic Church. Private. Only family and close friends. Dean Martin's daughter was there. Dean had died in 1995. Sammy Davis Jr. in 1990. The Rat Pack was gone. Frank was buried, Desert Memorial Park, Cathedral City. Headstone simple. Francis Albert Sinatra, 1915 to 1998. The best is yet to come. After his death, the FBI file was partially released. 1,300-plus pages, decades of surveillance. In the file, Lucky Luciano meetings, Havana trip, Sam Giancana phone calls, CAL-NEVA visits, JFK connections, alleged courier roles. But no charges, no arrest, no conviction. Why? 2 reasons. 1. No hard evidence. The FBI suspected but couldn't prove. Sinatra was careful. Verbal agreements. No paper trail. 2. The Mafia protected him. Frank was useful. Entertainment industry influence, political connections, legitimacy. They protected him. And maybe a third reason, Frank himself was powerful. Money, connections, lawyers. He could fight and win. The FBI file revealed a lot, but not everything. Some secrets went to the grave with Frank. Frank Sinatra died, but his legacy is eternal. Musical legacy: 1,400-plus recordings, 59 studio albums, 9 Grammy Awards, Presidential Medal of Freedom, Congressional Gold Medal, 150-plus million albums sold worldwide. Cultural impact. Defined American cool, style, swagger, confidence. My Way. Most covered song, 50,000-plus versions. Vegas entertainment, pioneer. Rat Pack culture, friendship, fun, music. Crooning style, influenced generations. Michael Bublé, Harry Connick Jr. Controversy. Mob connections never fully explained. FBI investigation never concluded. JFK assassination theories persist. CAL-NEVA scandal, unresolved paradox. Frank Sinatra was beloved and feared, admired and suspected. An icon and a controversial figure. Light and shadow. Some questions remain unanswered. How did he really escape the Tommy Dorsey contract? What was that $2 million for in Havana? What was Sam Giancana's actual role in the JFK election? Did he know anything about the JFK assassination? We'll never know any of it. Frank kept secrets until the end. In 2024, Frank Sinatra's influence is still strong. Michael Bublé. Frank created the roadmap. I'm just following his path. Lady Gaga. Frank taught me boldness. Be yourself, no apologies. Bruno Mars. Sinatra's style, timeless. Cool never dies. Every year in Las Vegas, there are Sinatra tribute shows. My Way is still the most played song at funerals. New York, New York is heard every New Year's Eve. And young generations are discovering him on TikTok, Instagram. Fly Me to the Moon has gone viral multiple times. Frank's cool factor, eternal. When Frank Sinatra's story ends, what do we learn? A man walked between Hollywood glamour and the Mafia underworld. He sang for presidents and dined with mobsters. The FBI followed him for decades, but never arrested him. He found love and was destroyed. He attempted suicide and achieved a comeback. He refused to bend, always. My Way, not just a song, a philosophy, a way of life. Frank never compromised. Artistic integrity, sacred. Personal relationships, tumultuous. Power, everything. But he paid a price. Failed marriages, broken friendships, constant surveillance, stained reputation, secrets carried to the grave. Was it worth it? Frank apparently thought, yes. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. What can you learn from Frank Sinatra's COURIER story? 1. Never compromise your vision. Frank refused to sing songs he didn't believe in, refused arrangements he didn't like. This was sometimes costly, but he kept his integrity. You too, stand up for what you believe in. Don't sell your values for money, fame, approval. 2. Comeback is always possible. In 1952, Frank seemed finished. Career dead, marriage destroyed, suicidal. But in 1953, he made the greatest comeback. Lesson: it's never too late. You're never too far gone. If you're willing to fight, you can rise. 3. Connections matter, but be careful. Frank's mob connections helped his career, escape from Tommy Dorsey, Vegas opportunities, but also haunted him, FBI surveillance, reputation damage. Lesson: who you associate with matters. Choose carefully. Some connections help short-term, but harm long-term. 4. Style comes from within. Frank's cool wasn't manufactured, it was authentic. It was who he was. He didn't force it. Lesson: be yourself. Authentic. Style can't be imitated, because it's unique. 5. But there is moral ambiguity. Frank wasn't a hero. He did dark things, associated with questionable people, destroyed marriages, sometimes neglected children. A legend, but deeply flawed. Lesson: success and morality don't always align. Power and goodness sometimes conflict. Frank chose power. That was his choice. What's yours? Frank Sinatra walked between glamour and darkness. Two worlds, legal and illegal, celebrated and suspected, loved and feared. He was never arrested, but never fully cleared. He created timeless music, but his reputation was forever stained. He sang "My Way," but his way had a cost. Now, let me ask you, what is your way? What line are you walking? And are you willing to pay the price? Frank Sinatra proved it's possible to live in two worlds, but it's not easy, it's not clean, and it takes secrets to the grave. The voice fell silent in 1998, but the whispers, mob connections, deals, secrets still continue. Some stories can't be fully told. Some truths stay buried, and some legends live forever with controversy. Frank Sinatra wanted exactly that, to be remembered. Forever. Perfectly? Number. Powerfully? Absolutely. I did it my way. And the world remembers. In every note, in every song, in every whispered rumor. Rest in power. Chairman of the board. The voice echoes eternal.